Okay, so we're going to do Intarsia this time. So Intarsia is when you take one color and you plop it in the middle of other colors. And so I have 3 full skeins for this, but you could have 3 small balls. We're going to start with the color that's already attached, that is at the bottom. We're then going to switch to some of the coral, and then we're going to switch back to this color, but on a different skein. So I'm going to go ahead and knit just 5 stitches. And I'm just going to show you this in my style of knitting because there's nothing special about the knitting. Now I'm going to add my color. When I go to add the color, I'm just going to add the color. It's nothing special, right? Leave a nice long tail for weaving in later, but we're just adding it. It's going to leave a hole. It's going to be annoying, but the hole is taken care of when you go to weave in your ends. Same thing down here. I'm just going to add my other color. And knit. So Intarsia gives you a very flat stockinette feel. Okay, so there's my my new yarn, and yes, I do have 2 like gap tooth holes there. They're going to get sucked up just a little bit on the return side, and even more so when you weave in those ends. So one thing about Intarsia is you do have to do some fairly serious yarn management because it gets a little bit nutty, and especially with 3 full skeins or big skeins. So I'm going to purl, and I'm going to purl only to my color change. So I'm going to purl and in this pattern that we're doing for the squares, you will always be, let's see, I think I'm going to say this correctly, you'll always be knitting the same color above the same color once you change, and that's true of the basic one, but actually that's not true of the other one. So I'm going to tighten up that little stitch. Now, here's what I need you to see. This is my old yarn. It's old because I just finished using it. This is my new yarn. It's new because I'm about to start using it. I'm going to take my old over top of the new, and I'm going to pick up my new. That's it. That interlocking right there is all you need to do. And I tend to hold it just in place like that, just because it helps me with my yarn management. Right, and you can see already my hand's getting a little bit twisted. There we go, give myself a little bit more. I'm going to come to that next color. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this. This is on the first row that you have to tighten this stuff. The pink is now considered my old yarn because I just finished it. This next blue one is considered my new yarn because I'm about to use it. So I'm going to take my pink, my old, over top of my new. I'm going to grab that pink and just hold on to it because it helps link it. And I'm going to go ahead and purl all the way to the end. Okay, get all my tails organized for just a second. See this? This is what you're going to deal with, but you're dealing with it only in a tiny little square. So in the whole spectrum of life, you're going to decide if you ever want to do Intarsia again. And for some of you, the answer will be no. And for some of you, you will love it because what you're going to like is you're going to like the fabric that you get. Okay, let's just do this little guy right through here. I know you can't see all of my yarn management off screen, but just trust me on this. Okay, all right, back to my little square. Now, when you do the Intarsia, the linking stitches on your right side, it's the same thing. I'm going to knit in my first color all the way to my little square. And of course your chart is going to tell you how many stitches to do. So don't worry too much about that. Then I'm going to look back there and I'm going to say this blue is the one that I was using, so that's considered old. So I'm going to just move it to the left. This pink, which is my new one, but not my tail, which is my new one, I'm going to pick up. And it's again going to take old over new, and now I'm just going to knit. And in doing that, I've closed that gap between them. See right there, there's no gap between those stitches. Knit across. One more. My old one is now the pink one. My new one is now the blue one. I drop my old over top of the new. I grab that old one in my right hand, or just kind of hold on to it a little bit so that I can then knit all the way across. Right? And again, I've linked that little guy closed. So on your back side, it's going to look like these little links coming right up here. And I'm going to do a couple more rows, and then I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like after you have a little bit more on. Okay, so just to give you a quick look, right, this is what it looks like from the front side. You can see you've closed those little gaps. And when you look at the wrong side, you can see that yarn kind of just travels up each side, and that's how you're linking it. If you do, by the way, see that you have a hole like that, that's where you did not link your yarns, or in this case, where the yarn is just starting. When I get to the very end, I just need to pull this yarn across over here, and I'm going to be able to weave in my end and close that gap entirely and never know that it was ever even there. Same thing down here. But if you do have a hole further up, you're going to need to either use a little bit of yarn to suck in that gap, or you're going to need to pull it back. So that's Intarsia. Have fun with it.